Today, we are talking about finishing 2025, the last 3 months, October, November, and December, strong, and how these 3 months are laying the foundation we are launching off of over the next 9-year universal energy cycle. So let's jump right into it. This year is 2025. 2 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. So we are in a 9 universal year, the last year in these 9-year cycles, meaning we are closing all of the energetic loops that have been opened starting back in 2017. 2 plus 1 plus 7 is 10. So we have the magnified 1 energy. In numerology, the 0 simply magnifies whatever it is attached to. So we have the 1 universal year beginning in 2017 Rooster year, and we have the 2025 9 universal year closing the 9-year cycle in the snake year. When it comes to Chinese astrology, the rooster and the snake are in the same trine. They work together, they pair together with the ox. And so this year, we have been closing all of these energetic loops. We have been building up to the culmination of the last 9 years worth of work into a massive finale and conclusion that has been unfolding across the second half of this year. Now, October, November, and December, the last 3 months of this year, are all about beginning to lay the foundation for the next 9-year cycle. Here in 2025, January, 1 energy, February, 2 energy, March, 3, every single month, that month has the universal energy of the number of month we are in. So we are in the September. So we are in last month was September. So we were in a 9 energy month. This month is October. So we are in a 1 energy month. November, 2 energy. December, 3 energy. January was beginning to move us into the conclusion, beginning to close these energetic loops that have been open since 2017. February, with that divine intuition, that 2 energy, was giving us a little sneak peek for what we could expect throughout the rest of the year. March, with the lunar eclipse, with the solar eclipse, with 5 plus energies in Pisces, the 12th sign in astrology that transition, the watery undercurrent that moves and flows with our subconscious, transitions us from what was into what will be, was all happening in March. April, which is the first quarter of the year, it was beginning to move us in the direction of closing these energetic loops. The second quarter, April, May, June, was building up to this meaty middle. April 4 energy was laying the foundation for us to begin transitioning from what was into what will be. May, the 5th month, 5 energy, change, adaptability, versatility, was all about actually shifting our actions, beginning to create new habits, new patterns, eliminating what no longer serves us so that we can move into June, the 6th month of the year, 6th universal month in the 9 universal year that is 2025. 6 energy in this instance is representing hardship, challenges, barriers, obstacles, selfless service, duty. And so we had to do the work, put in the actual work to get us over the hump, to actually begin transitioning into what will be. July was a 7 energy, spirituality, introspection, retrospective, very analytical energy, tends to teach us through material loss. If you just think of the number 7, we come across and then we go down, across, down, across, down. 7 energy tends to take something away from us. Isolation, loneliness, material loss, injury. We take a step back to analyze, reflect, and allow this divine intelligence to begin working through us. So July was all about taking some time, taking some space, analyzing what has been working, what hasn't been working, as we have moved throughout the first half of the year. August, 8 energy in this 9 universal year was a karmic checkpoint for us during the year. We just passed through the midpoint of the year, and now we have this meaty middle beginning to come to a conclusion. We are checking in. Have we been doing what we were supposed to be doing the last 9 years? All the way back to 2017. Yes or no? What's been working? What hasn't been working? What wins did we have? What losses did we experience? What lessons have we learned? All coming together in August of 2025 to teach us these lessons, to give us valuable insight into the status of our learning. I've made previous episodes on the 3 levels, the 3 layers of karma. And so this is giving us a introspective insight into the status of our learning between these layers of karma as everything has been unfolding. Last month, September, 9 universal month, and this 9 universal year was all about conclusions, wrapping up these loose ends that had been opened and left open starting all the way back in 2017. Everything's coming to an end. Everything's coming to a conclusion so that here in October, 1 energy, we can begin laying the foundation, laying the groundwork for our next 9-year cycle. So as we move throughout the next 3 months of this year, and the universe gives us tests to continue figuring out the status of our learning, we can demonstrate by changing our actions when presented with these tests to demonstrate that we have learned. For example, if you have been very angry since 2017, life's been beating you down, everything feels like an uphill battle, an uphill struggle, and that has caused you to lash out in anger, completely understandable. As we move through October, November, and December, and you encounter the same conditions that normally you would respond with anger, this time, demonstrate to the universe you have learned your lessons through the experiences you have had over the last 9 years to change your actions. Same conditions, new actions, by definition, is learning. You're presented the same exact circumstances and you do something different, you have learned. And you demonstrate to the universe in these moments that you have learned so that you can move on to the next set of lessons the universe has in store for you, in store for all of us. And as we move through life, we can continually demonstrate that we are learning from the experiences we have so that we never have to experience extreme amounts of pain. There is no avoiding pain, hardship, challenges, and barriers. We can minimize them. The universe presents us with these experiences because it knows exactly what makes us tick. It knows exactly why we do the things we do, what our desires, wants, needs, motivations are, so it can deliver us with pinpoint precision and accuracy the exact experiences we need to have in the exact moment we need to have them, so that we can learn our lessons. Saturn, with its ring, ensures there is no escaping the lessons we are meant to learn in this lifetime. The sooner we demonstrate through our actions that we have learned our lessons, the less pain we live in. Emotional pain, physical pain. Universe presenting us with these physical obstacles, these emotional obstacles. Because we don't need to have such an emotionally dynamic experience to change our actions. Some people need to be punched in the face repeatedly by the universe in order to learn their lesson. Other people, universe gives them a tap on the back and they say, fantastic, I've learned my lesson. I don't want to get kicked in the gut, so I'll change my actions quickly and double down where I get reinforced by the universe. And so, kind of getting off topic here, back to the main point. How do we take advantage of October, November, and December? The first thing, as we encounter these tests that the universe is giving us, testing the status of our learning, determining whether or not we have learned the lessons we're meant to learn from this last 9-year cycle, it is important that we respond, not react. We respond to these tests appropriately. We said already anger as an example, if you have been too passive, you have not asserted yourself in social settings, you have not chased your dreams, you have not pursued your goals, the universe is going to present you over the next 3 months opportunities where you are in the same position that you have been. You're going to encounter the same set of circumstances. And it's testing whether or not you have learned from all of the experiences we've had over the last 9 years to determine if you are prepared to move on to your next set of lessons. And Saturn, I assure you, will drag us through life if we attempt to resist these lessons. There is no escaping that ring. Some people, they're trying to speed through life. They're constantly bumping up against the front side of Saturn's ring. Some of us, we are resisting life. And so Saturn is forced to pull us through as it moves through the sky. It's dragging us into the positions we need to be in to fulfill our karmic destiny, so that we are fulfilling the role we were born to fulfill, not for ourselves, but for society as a whole. Much like a bee in a beehive, some bees are born to improve the hive all day long. They're fixing holes, they're building the combs, they're improving the hive all day long. Some bees are sitting there protecting the queen all day. Other bees, they're out flying around pollinating as many flowers as possible. We are all born for a specific reason to fulfill a specific role, and this is our karmic destiny. We can add zeros and add magnitude to that role, but there is no escaping the role you're meant to fulfill. And so this is where the input-output equations come into play. Newton's third law: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you put $1 into the system, you do one action, one input, and you get 10 outputs. If you put 1,000 inputs into that system, you would get 10,000 outputs. If you put 1,000,000 inputs into that system, you would get 10 million outputs. We all have this input-output equation based on our accumulated karma, that base level of karma. Going back to the 3 layers of karma. And so that base layer sets what these input-output equations are for all of us. And that ratio is unknown. And in different areas of life, we have a different ratio set. With that said, as you clear karma and as your ratio improves, your ratio is still there. Here's a story to illustrate this, and then we will wrap this up really fast. When I was in my mid-20s, my grandfather had an emergency brain surgery and was left after having a stroke and was left bedbound and was put on hospice. Brought him back to the house, changed our entire lives, and to become his in-home caretaker. And homeboy lived bedbound on hospice for 2 years. At the time, I had a freshly sprouting kinesiology business. And so, long story short, after the first year, the business was practically dead. And so I tell everyone I'm around and all the people around me going through that experience, I was able to tell them this was karmically destined for every single person involved. There was no escaping this set of lessons. Whether I was learning them through my grandpa or I was learning these lessons through a different experience, these specific lessons were coming my way one way or another. Now, whether I had, and really fast, by the halfway mark, my business was cut in half. By the end of that first year, pretty much all my clients had left. Even though some of them were getting good results, the ability for me to service at the standard and quality of care that I desire was not there. I was not able to deliver the service the way that I wanted to. And so, handful of people left. I was like, okay, whatever, I'm dealing with this. A couple months later goes by, another handful of people left. Now we're halfway through the first year and the business is cut in half. I'm like, oh, we might have a problem here. Let me see if I could dig into this and really figure out. By the end of that year, so emotionally overwhelmed, was just not in a great headspace. Business was dead. I tell people whether I had 3 clients, whether I had 30 clients, whether I had 300 clients, I had 3,000 clients, 30,000 clients. Based on the inputs I did up to that point, how much I spent advertising, whether it was $100 a week, $1,000 a week, $10,000 a week, the ratios in that business were set. I did not put in enough inputs to have enough wiggle room that I would be able to lose enough people over those 2 years that the business would still survive. But that was based on the inputs I did prior to this experience. So starting in 2017, all of the inputs, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020-ish is when I really started digging into the kinesiology stuff. And so all of the inputs, the advertising inputs, the servicing inputs, the free clients, there was not enough volume. I didn't add enough zeros to those inputs to give me enough wiggle room with the outputs to be able to survive. But either way, if I had 300 clients, I was still going to lose 150 people because I was going to lose half of my business in the first 6 months. That experience was coming for me one way or another. It just so happens we have like 30 clients and we lost half of them. If we had 300 clients, we would have lost 150 instead of 15. But the zeros are simply magnifiers like we started the entire podcast off with. The month of October. And so that zero, whatever it's attached to, just magnifies those energies. So as we move through the next 3 months, it's critical when we are presented the same conditions we have already encountered over the last 9 years that we respond, not react. We respond consciously the way we want to moving forward. And how we respond like our permanent record being written into the universe, is going to dictate the types of experiences we have over the next 9-year cycle. And if we want to play a bigger game, all we have to do is add a 0 to the number of inputs we are giving the universe. If we're spending $100 a week in advertising in our business, how do we crank that up to $1,000 a week, $10,000 a week in advertising, $100,000 a week in advertising? And how do you build the system to service that and make that possible? There is no other priority. It's simply input, output. How many inputs you give determines how many outputs you get. If you have made it this far, I genuinely appreciate you for listening. The universe truly wants you to win. The universe is on your side. There simply is no escaping the lessons we are meant to learn in this lifetime, because we are all meant to fulfill our karmic destiny by delivering to society in the role we are meant to fulfill. Delivering value to society in the role we are meant to fulfill. The universe wants you to win. I also want you to win. And once again, I genuinely appreciate you for listening. I will talk to you again soon.